Kayla was just 15, a sophomore in Michigan. It was late October of 2019, one of those evenings when the sky outside was already dark by the time practice ended. The air was sharp with cold, and the trees outside rattled in the wind like bones knocking together. Volleyball practice had just wrapped up. Her teammates had rushed out quickly, laughing, shouting, heading toward warm cars waiting in the lot. But Kayla lingered behind. She always did. She had forgotten her bag, and she hated being the one to slow the team down. So, as the last echoes of her friends faded down the hall, Kayla found herself alone in the gym. The silence was immediate. The squeak of sneakers and the bounce of volleyballs were replaced with the faint buzz of the overhead lights. The massive space of the gym suddenly felt too big, too empty. Kayla slung her jacket over her arm and walked toward the locker room. The familiar smell hit her the moment she pushed open the door. Disinfectant, sweat, damp towels. It was the same as always. But tonight, something felt off. At first, she couldn't place it, and then she heard it. Drip, drip, drip. Her eyes flicked toward the showers. A thin stream of water was running, tapping against the tile. Strange. Everyone else had left. Why would the shower still be on? She hesitated, listening. The sound of the water echoed in the empty room. Slowly, she stepped closer, the rubber soles of her sneakers squeaking softly against the tile floor. That's when she saw them. Shoes. Not sneakers like her teammates wore. Not brightly colored athletic shoes. These were heavy, worn, scuffed leather, dull with age, too large to belong to any of the girls on her team. They were sticking out beneath one of the bathroom stalls, motionless. Kayla froze. For a second, her brain scrambled for an explanation. Maybe a janitor, maybe a teacher, but no janitor would be in the girls' locker room. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. The longer she stared at those shoes, the more wrong it felt. She began backing away, one step at a time, trying to make as little noise as possible. The door was just a few feet behind her. She could get out. She could pretend she'd seen nothing. And then, creak! The stall door slowly swung open. Kayla's breath caught in her throat. A man stepped out. He wasn't a teacher. He wasn't a student. He was older, mid-40s maybe. His face was unshaven, his hoodie stained with something dark and unpleasant. His hair was greasy, hanging over his forehead, and his eyes locked onto hers like he had been waiting for her. His lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. And then, in a cracked, shaky voice, he whispered, "You look just like my daughter." The words echoed through the empty locker room. Kayla's blood ran cold. Her legs felt cemented to the floor. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her body wouldn't listen. The man dragged his hand along the metal lockers as he walked toward her. The screech of his fingernails scraping against the metal cut through the silence like knives. Step by step, he closed the distance. Kayla's chest heaved. Finally, her survival instincts kicked in. She spun, slammed the locker room door open, and bolted down the hallway. Her sneakers slapped against the polished floor, the sound echoing like gunshots in the empty building. She didn't dare look back. She didn't want to know if he was chasing her. She tore around the corner and burst into the school's front lobby. And by some miracle, there was someone there. A janitor mopping the floor near the main doors. Kayla's voice cracked as she screamed for help. The janitor dropped the mop instantly, rushing toward her. She was sobbing, gasping for breath, pointing back down the hall. The police were called. They arrived quickly. Officers swept the building. What they found made Kayla's stomach twist. A back window in the gym had been shattered. The glass still clung to the frame, jagged and sharp, with drops of blood on the sill. The man had broken in. He hadn't belonged there at all, but he was gone. Later, Kayla learned the truth. The police identified him from her description and from fingerprints on the broken glass. He was a registered sex offender. He had been spotted around the area in the weeks before, hanging near schools. He'd slipped inside. He'd been waiting. What haunts Kayla the most isn't just that he was there. It isn't even what he said to her. It's the question she can't shake, even years later. How long had he been in that locker room before she walked in? And if she'd stayed just one more minute, if she'd walked a little slower, what would have happened? Story 2, The Night of the Fire Alarm, extended version. Alex attended a boarding-style high school in Texas. Dorm life meant long hallways, crowded rooms, whispered secrets after lights out, and the occasional prank. But nothing had prepared him for what happened one freezing night in January 2020. The clock in the dorm read 2 a.m. He was half asleep, tangled in his blanket, when a piercing shriek jolted him upright. The fire alarm. It wasn't the usual drill, where the shrill sound cuts through practice or lunchtime chaos. This was different, louder, sharper, louder than he had ever heard in his life. Students stumbled out of their rooms, disoriented, shivering in pajamas and blankets against the icy January air. The wind whipped across the parking lot, making the lampposts sway and casting long, spindly shadows across the concrete. Alex's instincts screamed at him. Something was wrong. He scanned the dormitory. There was no smoke curling from the building, no smell of burning, no chaos, just the alarm. It didn't make sense. As he shivered, rubbing his arms for warmth, his gaze flicked toward the school building, and that's when he saw it. A shadow, framed in a second-floor window, tall, hooded, motionless, watching. Alex froze. His stomach sank. He nudged his friend, whispering urgently, "Look!" But when his friend looked up, the figure had vanished. The students huddled outside, teeth chattering, confusion spreading like wildfire. Teachers tried to organize them, but something about the scene made Alex feel exposed, vulnerable. After what felt like hours, but was likely only minutes, staff announced it was safe to return inside. Alex lingered, still uneasy. Overhearing two staff members whispering near the alarm panel made his blood run cold. Someone pulled it manually, one said. "What?" the other replied. "The alarm. It wasn't a malfunction. Someone opened the panel and pulled it." Alex's mind raced. Who could do that? Why? The next morning, rumors spread through the dorm like wildfire. But when security footage was reviewed, what the cameras captured made Alex's stomach drop. A hooded figure had been wandering the halls for over 2 hours before the alarm sounded. They passed classrooms, paused outside dorm doors, even crouched near windows, peering inside as students slept. At 1:55 a.m., the cameras captured the figure opening the fire alarm panel, pulling the switch. Then, as the students spilled outside, the figure moved upstairs, stood by a second-floor window, watching them shiver in the cold. The most terrifying detail? The cameras never recorded the figure leaving the building. It was as if they had vanished into thin air. Some suggested it might have been a homeless intruder. Others thought it was a local trying to test the school's security. But Alex has a darker theory. What if the fire alarm wasn't the end game? What if it was step one? A way to gather students outside, disoriented, confused, and exposed to something worse? He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow in the dorm, every creak of the old floorboards after that night made his heart race. He started locking his door twice, checking windows multiple times. Even when teachers assured the students it was safe, Alex couldn't feel safe. The incident left him shaken. Weeks later, he still woke up in cold sweats, imagining that hooded figure standing silently at the window, waiting, watching, patient. Even now, years later, Alex avoids empty hallways late at night. He checks the fire alarm panels whenever he passes by, and every time the siren goes off, his chest tightens, and he remembers the night someone broke the rules, broke in, and toyed with his fear in a way that no one should ever experience. Story 3. The Van in the Parking Lot. Extended version. Emma was a junior in 2022, a dedicated choir student who often stayed late after practice to rehearse solo pieces. That evening, the sky had already swallowed the last traces of daylight. The parking lot outside the school was nearly empty, shrouded in shadow. Just her small sedan was parked in the row closest to the doors. And then there was the van. An old, white van with no back windows. Its paint was chipped, rust spreading across the side panels. No license plate was visible. It sat there quietly, unmoving, like it had been waiting for her. Emma's stomach tightened. A shiver ran down her spine. She tried to shake it off, telling herself it was probably a teacher or a janitor. But something about the van made her instincts scream, danger. She clutched her bag tightly and walked quickly toward her car, trying to appear calm. Her footsteps echoed slightly on the asphalt, the only sound in the quiet lot. And then she heard it, a soft sliding noise, the van door inching open just a crack. Emma froze. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest. Seconds stretched into eternity. She waited, praying she had imagined it, but the door slammed shut again. Emma forced herself to stay calm. She pulled out her phone, pretending to text someone, and unlocked her car. Every movement was deliberate, careful. She climbed inside, locking the doors instantly. Her hands shook uncontrollably as she started the engine. She glanced up, and the van door opened again. A man stepped out, older, baggy clothes. He moved with a strange, deliberate purpose, as if every step was calculated. He didn't hurry, but each movement radiated menace. Emma panicked. She pressed her foot to the gas, reversing almost recklessly, tires squealing against the asphalt. She barely cared about anything else, just getting away. But as she backed up, the horror escalated. Through the rearview mirror, she saw shadows move inside the van. 2 more men were crouched in the darkness, barely visible, but enough for her mind to fill in the blanks. Her pulse raced. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. She slammed the car into drive and shot toward the exit. Emma's eyes flicked toward the van again, its sliding door now fully closed, but she couldn't see if they were still inside. Her imagination ran wild with possibilities. What would they have done if she'd taken even a few more seconds to get in her car? When she reached home, her hands still shook. She immediately called the school. Security footage confirmed her worst fears. The van had pulled into the lot 15 minutes before choir ended, strategically parking beside her car. The doors had remained closed the entire time, waiting. And when she drove away, the van followed, circling the neighborhood for nearly 20 minutes before disappearing off camera. No license plate, no trace, no leads, nothing. Emma couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted. Every dark parking lot, every empty street after practice, every shadowy vehicle reminded her of that night. Even now, when she passes that school, her stomach knots. She knows that the van could have returned, parked in the exact same spot, waiting again. The terrifying thought that haunts her most? It didn't matter if she had been careful, if she had moved slower, if her keys had slipped. That van and the men inside had been ready, patient, observing, and they were dangerous. If you found this story shocking, disturbing, or eye-opening, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more unbelievable true stories.